Hello, just like to introduce myself. My name is Peter Gong. First Nations artist, lives here in Mission, BC. I belong to the Squamish Nation, and I'm a direct descendant of the people who lived on the State River, the Wanik people, and also very strong connections with most of the Stolen Nations here in the valley and Nooksack across the border. Uh, I've been a full-time artist since 2011. Up until then, I worked full-time in the forest industry, different jobs. The last 20 plus years, I was a head shipper in a lumber mill. And in 2009, the mill shut down, and that left me at the age of 54 wondering what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I always anticipated that I would take up art, my interest in West Coast Native art, and maybe supplement retirement income with doing a bit of art. I have to say that I was first introduced to West Coast Native art by my mother's brother, my uncle Jack Miranda, also a Squamish Nation artist, when I was a teenager. And he introduced me to carving some wood, but mostly ivory, whale's teeth, bear teeth, that kind of stuff. And that's more or less what he specialized in. He did all sorts of panels in wood, but mostly he really enjoyed doing ivory in small pieces. And so I got my original interest in art from working with my uncle. And so when I got out of high school, I went right to work in the forest industry and moved to Mission, BC. I grew up on the Wanik Reserve, which is in Maple Ridge, right on the Fraser River, and just basically my family living on that little plot of land. And it wasn't long before I met my future wife, and before you know it, we're married and we're raising a family and paying off a mortgage, paying off cars, putting kids through school and such. And didn't really have a chance to really pursue my interests in art, though I did have some close calls, if you might say. Some of my friends, neighbors, were good friends with Bill Reed and hoped to get me hooked up with him, but it never happened. And I have to say that I grew up about a mile down the road from Robert Davison when he had his studio in Wanik, and he probably doesn't remember, but he invited me to come and learn from him at that point, when my brother introduced us. But I was too busy being a teenager and chasing girls and doing different things, and didn't really wasn't really interested in pursuing art hard at that point in my life. So at 54, when the mill shut down, I went back to school, finished my high school, started looking at university courses, and I thought that I might be interested in working within the school system, because I like the idea of only working 10 months a year after working outside for 12 months a year. So in the meantime, I'd hooked up with my nephew George Hemian, also a Squamish Nation artist, and worked on a couple projects with him and volunteered. And then I hooked up with that Coast Salish artist George Penier, and he more or less mentored me. It wasn't really hard ties. It's just we would get together once in a while, and I would observe him drawing and designing, and hope to learn from him by doing that. And then I also hooked up with a Nuu-chah-nulth artist, who's Tom Pattison, who trained with Tony Hunt Sr. at Arts in the Raven. Actually, both George Penier and Tom Pattison trained with Tony Hunt Sr. At Arts of the Raven. And they were my two main mentors. And from them, I acquired a certain skill set, carving masks, and through mostly Tom designing in form line on my pieces. I also did 2 years of art classes for seniors or elders with Mike D'Angeli, who's a Nishka artist, and I took that class with him, mainly because I wanted to get a better grasp of how form line works, and I got a real strong passion for understanding how that works, and I'm still working at it today. But since 2011, I was fortunate to own my own place, and it had a detached garage, which is this is my carving space, 24 feet by 24 feet. It didn't have power in it. I ran power out to it. I acquired tools, all sorts of tools, carving knives and such, and I just had a driving passion to learn. So I went at it full time, 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day. And if I started carving a mask, I didn't want to put it down till it was done. What I realized at that point was I could carve a mask, but I wasn't done in West Coast in West Coast art. It needed to be designed and framed with either horsehair or cedar bark or both. That's what I learned from Tom Pattison and George Panier. And from carving masks, which is what I really wanted to do, I branched out, and I thought, well, if I'm going to make a living at this, I need to be able to do more than just carve masks. So I started doing smaller things, making combs, rattles, carving panels, and just kept pushing the boundaries of the the inventory of things that I could create and sell out of my studio, and that's where I sell most of my art. And I find as an artist, if you're not pushing your comfort zone, then you tend to get stagnant and you don't advance, you don't push your skill set if you don't try new things. So my advice to anybody out there, a young artist, is find a mentor, whether it's a full-on apprenticeship or just kind of a occasional acquaintance with them, or you know, hooking up with them once in a while to study with them. That's basically how I did it. And learn as much as you can and keep pushing your skill set. So now I do I work within form line, though I don't consider myself really that good at it. I will design form line designs on bentwood boxes and other things, panels, and paint them and carve them. And I consider myself very much a beginner at that. It takes a lifetime to become proficient at it. That's what I can see. A lot of artists have been doing it their whole lives, and they're the ones that I'm looking up to and trying to learn from. I taught myself how to make bentwood boxes, and now I make boxes and large numbers of boxes at times. I make them for myself to design, either painted or carved, and I make sufficient numbers that I'm able to sell blanks to other artists who require them, get orders and don't make them themselves, but they want boxes to design and paint, carve, whatever. So I make boxes for them. So in order to sell you pieces, boxes, blank ones, they have to be of good quality, otherwise the artist doesn't want them. And to that end, I pushed real hard. I can now make a box, 1¼ inch square to as big as I can get a piece of wood. And so making big, large chests and whatever the artist wants. If I have the stock, I can make it. Whatever I want, I can make for myself. And as an artist, first you're concerned about where you're going to sell your pieces, how you're going to make a living at it. Sometimes you worry about the competition that's out there. But I've decided in my life that you can't worry about what other people are doing. You just have to concentrate on trying to create the best quality pieces that you can do. And usually starts out that you get all your support from friends and family. And in the beginning, that's what happened for me. Friends and family and acquaintances started purchasing art from me. And as my quality of the pieces improved, I I hooked up with a friend of mine, Roxanne McCallum, who's a First Nations artist. She does engraving and such. Much more experienced at selling art than I was, because I had no experience. And for 4 or 5 years, her and I went around, and she continues to do this. Did venues such as farmers markets, anything that came up where we could set up with a 10 by 10 canopy and put our art out and sell it. We worked together to do that. And I did that for 4 or 5 years. And some days I sold lots of art, other days I didn't. That's the luck of the draw when you go out in the public and you set up and you sell your art. But it gave me the insight and the confidence when people actually purchased some larger pieces from me, to continue on and pushing to learn more and to continue to make a living at it, or make an effort to make a living at it. And it's a hard go at first. You lack the confidence that comes the more you do it. You got to keep a sense of quality about the pieces you do. They got to be the best, and you got to be the best that you can do. And you always need to push and try to create better pieces. That's my goal, anyways. I always like to say that I want my next piece to be better than the last, and that continues on today for every piece that I do. I'm working on a bear mask right now, and I'll get it and show you. It's right down here, actually. It's a nice red cedar piece, and carved in a more or less Kwakwaka'wakw style. And what I've never done was never carved a mask with the tongue sticking out like this. So that was the challenge on this piece, was to carve it with the tongue. And my friend and mentor Tom Pattison never skimped on detail. He was all about detail. He is all about detail. His painting skills are just awesome. His designing is really good. His painting skills are incredible. And his sense of color and such are awesome. And I'm still learning all that stuff. I mean, I've been at it full time going on 10 years now. And you never stop learning. You gotta continue to push and push and push. So this is my bear mask. It's a good sized piece. It's a commissioned piece that's going back to Toronto. And it's just an example of the pieces that I create in my studio to sell. And I sell stuff out of my studio mostly. And I have an online presence to create a profile out in the world. Instagram, Facebook. I don't do those things for fun, but I do use them as a tool to create a presence in the world for myself as an artist. And I find that if you create quality pieces in the world, in your shop, in your studio, or in your home, you don't really need to sell them. They sell themselves, but what you need to do is be able to sell yourself as an artist. So for me, when people come to my studio, what I do is I give them a real brief history of my artist career, my working career, my heritage as far as First Nations go, and where I want to go with my art, basically. And people, and to know the stories behind the pieces that you're creating. It's been a driving passion for me to study art, West Coast art, the stories behind the pieces and all that stuff. And for me, I'll just continue to do it as long as I can. And that's pretty much what I want to say about myself as an artist. I really love what I'm doing. That makes a big difference. I challenge myself every day to do something different. And I set goals for myself every day. Before I come up to my studio, I'll say, okay, I got those 10 boxes I need to finish those. And I'll assemble them, put them together. Or I got that commission piece, I'm going to work on that today. And you have to be disciplined and just keep at it. Don't give up. Believe in yourself. Don't worry about what other people are doing, because they're going to do it, and you'll never be as good as some of the people out there, because they're incredible artists. But you can be the best that you can be, and that's all that really matters. Is you need that sense of accomplishment, satisfaction, knowing that you're doing something you enjoy, you're doing it to the best of your abilities, and there's always going to be someone better than you, but that doesn't matter, because it's you and your relationship with the customers, because you do build up a clientele of customers after years and years of doing this, and they know there's other artists out there. They know there's other really good artists out there, but they make that connection with you personally, and they want to buy your art. That's what matters to them in a lot of cases. So stick to it. Do the best you can. Try to get better. Find mentors, find teachers. Don't be afraid to push the limit of your skill set. Go out of your comfort zone at every opportunity you can, because that's gonna build you as an artist. You're gonna get so much better. You're gonna gain so much confidence. When I was young, I was the typical Native person. Didn't like talking in front of people. I was so shy, I wouldn't talk to people. But I overcame that in my working career in the forest industry. You work for full-grown men. You learn that there are responsibilities you have to do, and you grow as a person. And sometimes those responsibilities that you take on in your work career push you to become better at speaking in front of people, because I was the head of my department as a head shipper, and so I was in charge of personnel underneath me that I also trained, that I taught. I was a forklift instructor, so I had to put my name down black and white when I certified forklift operators in the mill. All that thing goes a long ways to building your confidence up as a person. And so that's my advice. Do the best you can. Don't give up. Stay to it. Know where you come from. Try and guess where you're going to go with your art. Just try to do the best you can. Okay, that's it for me here in Mission. You can see this wool panel that I'm working on beside me, and that's just one of the many projects that I've taken on this year in the Mission School District. They seem to enjoy my art, so they keep hiring me to do it. And yeah, stay to it. Stay to it. Stay true to yourself. Be the best you can.